Look at the king of the jungle, completely helpless. But this beast isn't afraid of predators. These two lions attack in the water. Huge mistake. They have no idea what they're up against. These lions keep trying, but they can't win. No matter how many attack, the rhino won't fall. These hyenas target its calf, but instead of hunting, they're running for their lives. This lion strikes from behind. Its jaws lock in, but it's useless. The rhino's skin is too thick. This beast fights back.
In the heart of the wild, there's a creature so ancient, so powerful, it has survived the ravages of time. A beast that once roamed alongside mammoths and saber-toothed cats, the rhinoceros, a living relic of a world that's slipping away. But today, these giants are vanishing, not because of time, but because of us. With only 27,000 rhinos left in the wild, the question isn't just, can we save them? It's, will we? The rhino's horn, once a symbol of power, has become a symbol of tragedy. A weapon used not against predators, but against the very animal that possesses it. Poaching, habitat loss, and human conflict have pushed them to the edge of extinction. But what if I told you that despite all this, the rhino's story is one of resilience, of survival, of an ancient warrior fighting a battle against time itself? In the next hour, we'll journey into the untold world of the rhinoceros, from the fight for survival against ruthless predators to the heart-wrenching battle to save them from the brink of extinction. Together, we'll uncover the secrets behind their mysterious horn, explore the breathtaking strength of their spirit, and witness the desperate fight to preserve these magnificent creatures before it's too late. Stay with us, because the story of the rhino is not just a fight for their survival, it's a fight for our planet's future. And it begins now. Lions, hyenas, and crocodiles. These are the primary predators that challenge the rhinoceros in its daily battle for survival. While the rhino's size, strength, and horn provide it with remarkable defenses, nature's fiercest hunters have adapted to exploit even the smallest weaknesses. Lions, the relentless apex predator. Lions are one of the most formidable predators on the African continent, and they pose a real threat to rhinos, especially young calves or the weak and injured. As apex predators, lions rely on strategy, coordination, and raw power to bring down prey much larger than themselves. A pride of lions often targets a solitary or separated rhino, using their speed, stealth, and teamwork to wear it down. The rhino, despite its size, is not an easy target for lions. Their thick, tough skin and powerful horns make them difficult to subdue. However, lions are patient and will wait for the right moment. They know that a lone rhino, particularly one without the protection of a herd, is vulnerable. The lion's primary tactic is to chase and exhaust the rhino, gradually trying to close the gap between themselves and the rhino. Once close, they will attempt to jump onto the rhino's back, aiming for the throat or soft spots. The rhino is not defenseless. When threatened, it can charge at speeds of up to 30 miles per hour, using its horn as a deadly weapon. Rhinos have been known to kill lions with a single strike, piercing their bodies with the sharp, powerful horn. However, lions' persistence and the advantage of numbers can overwhelm even the toughest rhinos, especially if they manage to surround the animal. As the battle rages on between the lions and the rhino, there's another force waiting for the right moment. The lions, despite their power, are not the only predators in this environment. As the battle winds down, the opportunistic hyenas will soon move in, ready to take advantage of the chaos left behind. Hyenas, the opportunistic scavengers. While hyenas are not typically capable of taking down a healthy adult rhino, they are incredibly skilled opportunists, and when they sense weakness, they won't hesitate to strike. Hyenas are relentless and cunning, using their superior stamina and teamwork to wear down their prey. They are known for their ability to scavenge and steal kills from other predators, but when food is scarce, they'll target vulnerable animals, including young rhinos or those in a weakened state due to injury or illness. Hyenas often travel in packs, which allows them to work together to bring down large prey. They'll often harass a rhino from all sides, circling it, nipping at its legs, and attempting to exhaust it. They also take advantage of the rhino's relatively limited agility in tight spaces. If the rhino is too tired or distracted to defend itself, the hyenas will attack its vulnerable spots, such as the eyes or ears, and begin to tear into the flesh. Unlike lions, hyenas are not particularly focused on direct confrontation with an adult rhino, unless absolutely necessary. They prefer to exploit moments of weakness or work as a group to target the young or injured. The sound of hyenas laughing and calling to one another in the distance is enough to unsettle any animal, and rhinos are no exception. They understand the risk of encountering a pack of hyenas, and a lone rhino without the protection of the herd is particularly vulnerable to these predators. But even the hyena's opportunistic behavior pales in comparison to the true masters of stealth in the wild. Crocodiles, the silent assassins of the waterways, lie in wait beneath the surface, patient and deadly. As hyenas circle their prey, crocodiles lurk, ready to strike when the moment is right. Crocodiles, silent assassins of the waterways. In regions where rhinos must cross rivers or venture near water sources, crocodiles are a looming threat. These cold-blooded predators are experts in ambush. With their long, powerful jaws and lightning-fast strikes, crocodiles can pose a deadly danger to a rhino, particularly when it is drinking from a river or crossing shallow waters. Crocodiles often wait motionless for hours, partially submerged, blending into their environment. When a rhino approaches the water, unaware of the lurking danger, the crocodile strikes with explosive speed. Using its strong jaws, it aims to grab onto the rhino's leg or neck, dragging it into the water. The rhino's weight and sheer size can sometimes prevent the crocodile from dragging it under, but a determined croc will keep biting, trying to latch on to a vulnerable area. In some instances, crocodiles have been known to work in pairs, ambushing their prey from both sides. If the rhino is young or weakened, a crocodile may succeed in pulling it into the water, where the struggle becomes even more dangerous. However, adult rhinos are usually able to fend off a crocodile attack, using their powerful legs to stomp or kick at the reptile. Despite their incredible strength and defense mechanisms, rhinos are not invulnerable. The persistent pressure from these predators, whether in the form of a lion's coordinated attack, a hyena's ceaseless harassment, or a crocodile's deadly strike, keeps the rhino in a constant state of vigilance. Each encounter is a reminder that survival in the wild is an ongoing battle, one that demands both resilience and quick thinking. The rhino's survival strategies are deeply rooted in its ability to react to threats quickly. Its speed and agility, though often underestimated, play a key role when it comes to evading danger. Whether charging at high speed with its deadly horn or using its sharp senses to detect danger before it strikes, the rhino's instincts keep it one step ahead of its predators. And when all else fails, the rhino's thick skin and powerful build provide a last line of defense. Yet, despite these formidable strategies, the rhino knows that survival often hinges on more than just strength. It requires awareness of its surroundings, the ability to react in the heat of the moment, and ultimately, the determination to keep fighting against the odds. Now let's deep dive into history and origin of rhinoceros. The story of the rhinoceros is one that stretches back millions of years, weaving through the vast pages of Earth's evolutionary history. These iconic creatures, with their immense size and distinctive horns, are far older than many people realize. In fact, the first rhinos appeared during the Eocene epoch, around 50 million years ago, making them one of the most ancient lineages still roaming our planet today. To understand the origins of rhinos, we have to go back to the time when they were far different from the massive creatures we see today. Early rhinos were much smaller and lived in vastly different environments. The Eocene rhinos, such as Hyraceus, a small dog-sized creature, lived in lush, swampy areas. They were more like today's tapirs than the huge horned beasts we're familiar with. These early rhinos had no horns, and they walked on multiple toes, much like other early mammals from that period. Their evolution wasn't simply a straight path, but a fascinating story of adaptation and survival. As time progressed, rhinos evolved and adapted to a variety of changing climates and landscapes. By the Miocene epoch, around 23 million years ago, the rhino lineage had diversified significantly. At this time, the larger species began to emerge, and their bodies began to take on the more familiar shape we associate with rhinos today. One key development during this period was the increase in the size of rhinos, along with the development of the distinct horn, a feature that has become one of the defining characteristics of modern rhinos. While we often associate the rhino's horn with defense and combat, early rhinos may have initially used their horns for more benign purposes, such as foraging or attracting mates, much like how some other species of animals use their antlers today. By the time of the Pliocene and Pleistocene, around 5 million years ago, rhinos were becoming more specialized and spread across different continents. In Asia, we see the rise of species like the Indian rhinoceros and the Sunda rhinoceros, while in Europe, the woolly rhinoceros roamed the icy tundras during the last ice age. These adaptations were critical in helping rhinos thrive in diverse environments, from the tropical rainforests of Asia to the frozen steppes of Europe. It's during the Pleistocene that we first see a distinct split in rhino species based on their habitat. The woolly rhinoceros, with its thick fur and fat reserves, was perfectly suited for the cold, harsh climates of northern Europe and Asia. Meanwhile, the Indian rhino, or one-horned rhino, continued to thrive in the tropical climates of the Indian subcontinent, its thick skin offering protection from the sweltering heat. Other species like the black rhino and white rhino evolved further in Africa, adapting to their respective environments, whether it was the dense savanna or the more open grasslands. But as these majestic creatures adapted to changing environments, they also faced numerous challenges. The extinction of many of the larger prehistoric rhino species, such as the woolly rhinoceros, can be attributed to a combination of environmental changes at the end of the Ice Age and the increasing presence of humans, who began to encroach on their territories. This marked the start of a significant shift for the remaining species of rhinos. Interestingly, despite the pressures from natural events and human activity, the white rhino and black rhino survived through most of the Holocene period. In fact, the white rhino almost went extinct in the 20th century due to intense hunting, but thanks to conservation efforts, its numbers are now slowly recovering. The black rhino, on the other hand, remains critically endangered, largely due to habitat loss and poaching, with their numbers dwindling to just a few thousand today. Fast forward to the modern day, and rhinos have become a symbol of both resilience and fragility. Despite their evolution over millions of years, they now face unprecedented threats. Poaching for their horns remains one of the biggest challenges, as demand continues to soar in illegal markets. However, the story of the rhinoceros is not just about the struggle to survive. It's also about the remarkable resilience of an ancient species that has weathered climate shifts, the rise of human civilization, and the ever-present dangers that lurk in the wild. Rhinos, despite all the odds stacked against them, continue to roam parts of Africa and Asia, with ongoing efforts to conserve their populations. Through breeding programs, wildlife protection efforts, and raising awareness, there is hope for a future where these magnificent creatures can continue to thrive. The history of the rhinoceros is in many ways a reflection of the Earth's history itself, marked by periods of intense change, challenges, and survival. As we look at these magnificent creatures today, we see not just a remnant of a bygone era, but a testament to nature's ability to adapt and endure through time. The rhino's journey from ancient swamps to the modern-day savannas and jungles tells us that life, no matter how ancient or vast, is constantly evolving, constantly fighting for survival, and constantly changing with the world around it. As we journey through the evolutionary timeline of rhinos, we arrive at the modern day, where we encounter 5 distinct species of rhinoceros, each with its own unique characteristics, habitat, and conservation status. Though they share a common ancestry that spans millions of years, these species have adapted to their environments in fascinating ways, each with its own set of survival mechanisms. Let's take a closer look at these incredible creatures. Number 1. White rhino, Ceratotherium simum. The white rhino is the largest of all the rhino species, often reaching up to 1.8 meters, 5.9 feet, at the shoulder, and weighing up to 2,400 kg, 5,300 Ls. They are primarily found in the savannas and grasslands of southern and eastern Africa. Despite being the largest, they are also one of the most vulnerable due to poaching for their horns and habitat loss. Interestingly, the name white rhino comes from a mistranslation of the Afrikaans word wide day, which means wide, referring to their broad, square-shaped mouths, ideal for grazing on grasses. Unlike the more aggressive black rhino, white rhinos are known for their more docile nature and can often be seen grazing in large groups. There are two subspecies of white rhino. The southern white rhino, Cerothetherium simum, which is more abundant, and the critically endangered northern white rhino, Cerothetherium simum cottoni, which, tragically, is down to only 2 females as of recent years. Conservation efforts for the northern white rhino are ongoing, with attempts at in vitro fertilization to preserve the species. Numbe 2, black rhino, Dicarus bicornis. The black rhino is smaller than the white rhino, with a more pronounced pointed horn and a hook-shaped upper lip, which allows it to browse on shrubs and trees. These rhinos are primarily found in sub-Saharan Africa, in habitats ranging from savannas to more arid mountainous regions. Black rhinos are more solitary and territorial than their white counterparts, and their behavior tends to be more aggressive, especially when they feel threatened. Historically, black rhinos were widespread across Africa, but their populations have suffered due to poaching and loss of habitat. There are currently 4 subspecies of black rhino, and they are all classified as endangered. Conservation efforts, such as translocation of rhinos to safer areas and anti-poaching patrols, have shown success. But black rhinos still face significant threats. Their populations are slowly increasing thanks to these concerted efforts, but they remain critically endangered, with fewer than 5,000 individuals left. Number 3, Indian rhino, Rhinoceros unicornis. The Indian rhinoceros, also known as the one-horned rhinoceros, is one of the most distinctive of the rhino species due to its single horn and the armor-like folds of skin that give it a prehistoric look. These rhinos are found primarily in the Indian subcontinent, particularly in Nepal, India, and Bhutan, where they inhabit grasslands and floodplains. Once heavily poached for their horns, the Indian rhino population has made a significant recovery in recent decades, largely thanks to conservation efforts in areas like Kaziranga National Park in Assam, India. The Indian rhino is classified as vulnerable, with an estimated population of around 3,500 individuals. These rhinos are more social than their African counterparts and often form groups, particularly females and their calves. Male Indian rhinos tend to be more solitary and are known to be quite territorial. Number 4, the Javan rhino, Rhinoceros spondicus. The Javan rhino is the rarest of all rhino species, with only around 75 individuals remaining, all of which are found in Ujung Kulon National Park on the island of Java, Indonesia. Javan rhinos are similar in appearance to the Indian rhino, with a single horn and a more shaggy, grayish-brown appearance. Historically, they roamed across Southeast Asia, but due to poaching and habitat loss, their range has shrunk drastically. Javan rhinos are considered critically endangered, and their numbers continue to decline despite active conservation efforts. They are solitary and secretive animals, mostly living in dense tropical forests. Their primary threat continues to be human activity, such as encroachment and poaching, as well as the potential risk of natural disasters like volcanic eruptions and disease. Number 5, Sumatran rhino, Dicerorhinus sumatrensis. The Sumatran rhino is the smallest of all rhino species and is found in the rainforests of Sumatra and Borneo in Southeast Asia. This species is critically endangered, with fewer than 80 individuals believed to remain in the wild. Sumatran rhinos have 2 horns, with the front one typically being larger, and their physical appearance is more hairy than other rhinos, which helps them adapt to the humid, tropical environment they inhabit. Like the Javan rhino, the Sumatran rhino faces severe threats from deforestation, habitat destruction, and poaching. With their numbers rapidly dwindling, conservation efforts are focused on preserving the rainforest habitats and enforcing anti-poaching laws. The Sumatran rhino's survival is in grave danger, and without immediate action, they could face extinction within a matter of decades. Let's further understand the horn of rhinoceros, the rhinoceros horn, its science and mystery. When you think of a rhinoceros, the first thing that likely comes to mind is its iconic horn. This striking feature is one of the most recognizable and misunderstood parts of the rhino's anatomy. But the rhino horn is far more than just a symbol of strength or beauty. It's a fascinating biological structure that serves several important functions, and one that has sparked mystery and controversy for centuries. To truly understand the rhino horn, we need to explore its biological composition, its evolutionary significance, and the cultural and environmental implications of its existence. The science behind the rhino horn. At first glance, the horn of a rhinoceros may seem like a simple appendage, a tough, bony protrusion from the animal's snout. However, when we dive into the science behind the horn, we discover a highly specialized and complex structure unlike anything else in the animal kingdom. What is the horn made of? The rhinoceros horn is entirely made of keratin, the same tough, fibrous protein that forms human hair and nails. Unlike the horns of other mammals, which are made of bone covered by a layer of keratin, rhino horns are solid keratin, with no bone core. This composition is part of what makes rhino horns so distinctive. When viewed under a microscope, the keratin fibers are tightly packed together, creating a structure that is both durable and flexible. What makes the rhino horn even more unique is its growth pattern. Unlike the horns of bovid species like cows or goats, which have a set shape from the time they grow, rhino horns continue to grow throughout the rhino's life. In fact, rhino horns can grow as much as 3 to 4 inches per year under optimal conditions, although growth rates vary between species and individuals. As the horn grows, it's constantly being worn down by natural factors like abrasion from vegetation and contact with the ground, which is why rhinos often have slightly shorter or uneven horns, depending on how much they use them. So, what is the horn's biological purpose? The horn is, at its core, a tool for survival. Rhinos use their horns for a variety of practical functions. The primary role of the horn is defense. Rhinos, despite their massive size, can be surprisingly vulnerable to predators, particularly when they are young, sick, or injured. The horn gives them a formidable means of defense, allowing them to fight off threats like lions, hyenas, and crocodiles. Rhinos are capable of charging at speeds of up to 30 miles per hour, using their horns to strike or impale attackers. In addition to defending themselves from predators, rhinos also use their horns in social interactions, particularly in fighting. Male rhinos often engage in fierce battles over territory and mating rights. These battles typically involve the use of their horns to push, slash, and dislodge rivals. The sight of 2 rhinos locking horns is one of the most dramatic and primal displays of power in the animal kingdom. In fact, these contests often determine which male will have access to mates and territory, ensuring the survival of the fittest. Bulls. And digging. Rhino horns also serve as tools for digging and foraging. Rhinos often use their horns to break through tough vegetation, uproot plants, or clear obstacles in their path. In some cases, the horns are used to dig for water sources or mineral deposits in the earth, demonstrating their versatility. The mystery and cultural significance of rhino horns. Beyond its biological functions, the rhino horn holds a deep cultural significance in various societies, particularly in Asia, where it has been sought after for centuries. The mystery surrounding its purported powers has led to widespread exploitation, which has contributed significantly to the rhino's endangered status. In traditional Chinese medicine, rhino horn has been used for centuries to treat ailments ranging from fevers and headaches to more serious conditions like cancer and convulsions. While modern science has debunked these claims, proving that rhino horn has no medicinal properties, the myth of its healing powers still holds sway in some cultures, where it is considered a symbol of wealth, status, and virility. In particular, powdered rhino horn is highly sought after in some countries, where it's believed to have properties that can cure illness, detoxify the body, or even serve as an aphrodisiac. The demand for rhino horn in these markets has fueled the illegal poaching trade to alarming levels. Rhino horn can fetch prices as high as $60,000 per kilogram on the black market, making it one of the most expensive commodities in the world. The economic incentive has driven poachers to target rhinos relentlessly, and in some cases, entire populations of rhinos have been wiped out in a matter of years. This demand has pushed several species, such as the Javan and Sumatran rhinos, to the brink of extinction, and it remains one of the primary threats to rhino survival worldwide. Poaching, the dire impact of rhino horn demand. The tragic reality is that poaching for rhino horn has reached epidemic proportions. In just the last few decades, poaching has decimated rhino populations, and the black market continues to thrive despite international efforts to crack down on the trade. In many cases, poachers target protected areas and national parks, where rhinos are supposed to be safe from harm. The impact of poaching goes beyond the loss of life. It also disrupts entire ecosystems. Rhinos play a critical role in their environments, acting as keystone species that help maintain the balance of the habitat. Without rhinos to control vegetation, their absence can lead to overgrowth, which in turn affects the herbivores and other species that depend on the same resources. The loss of a single rhino can have ripple effects throughout the ecosystem, making their conservation even more urgent. Efforts to combat rhino poaching have included increased law enforcement, tracking technologies like drones and GPS collars, and even dehorning programs. While dehorning has proven effective in some cases, it is not a permanent solution and does not address the root cause of poaching: demand for rhino horn. The road ahead: conservation and the future of the horn. Despite the many challenges, there is hope for the future of rhinos. International organizations, governments, and conservationists are working tirelessly to protect rhinos from poaching and habitat loss. Anti-poaching units have been deployed in high-risk areas, and technology, such as satellite surveillance and infrared cameras, is helping to monitor rhino populations more effectively. Rhino sanctuaries and protected reserves have also been established to provide safe havens for rhinos to live and reproduce without the constant threat of poaching. Perhaps most importantly, education is playing a crucial role in reducing the demand for rhino horn. By informing people about the truth behind rhino horn myths and promoting sustainable and ethical alternatives, conservationists are striving to shift cultural perceptions and decrease the demand for this prized commodity. The rhino horn, with its intricate biological makeup and deep cultural significance, continues to be both a source of fascination and a point of great controversy. As we move forward, it is imperative that we address the threats to rhinos by reducing demand, increasing conservation efforts, and protecting these ancient giants from extinction. Only then can we ensure that the rhino's mysterious and powerful horn remains a symbol of natural wonder, not a tool for destruction. Let's deep dive into reproduction of Rahino. Rhino reproduction life cycle of a rhino calf. The reproduction of rhinos is a fascinating and intricate process that plays a crucial role in the survival of the species. As endangered animals, the birth and early life of a rhino calf are not just significant for their survival, but also for the preservation of the species as a whole. Let's dive into the key aspects of rhino reproduction: the unique life cycle of a calf, and the vital mother-calf bond that ensures its survival. Reproduction facts: gestation and the single calf. Rhinos have a relatively slow reproductive rate, a factor that contributes to their vulnerability in the wild. Female rhinos generally reach sexual maturity around 3 to 6 years of age, though they tend to have their first calf at around 6 to 7 years old. Male rhinos, on the other hand, typically reach maturity at around 10 years of age, but do not start actively mating until they establish their territory and dominance, which can take even longer. Rhinos have one of the longest gestation periods in the animal kingdom, lasting anywhere from 15 to 16 months depending on the species. This extended pregnancy is necessary for the development of a healthy calf that can survive in the wild, as rhinos give birth to a single calf at a time. Unlike many other mammals, twin births are extremely rare for rhinos, and the birth of a single calf is considered the norm. The long gestation period ensures the calf is born at an advanced stage of development, which is crucial for survival in the often harsh environments where rhinos live. Once born, the calf usually weighs between 50 to 100 pounds, a significant size for a newborn. While still quite vulnerable, the calf is already capable of standing and walking shortly after birth. This is an important survival trait, as rhinos are often preyed upon by large predators like lions, hyenas, and crocodiles, so being able to move with the mother as soon as possible can be a matter of life or death. Mother-calf bond and survival tactics. The relationship between a mother rhino and her calf is vital for the calf's survival. Mother rhinos are incredibly protective and nurturing during the early stages of the calf's life. The bond between them is strong, and the mother typically stays with her calf for several years, ensuring it is well fed and protected from predators. Newborn rhinos rely entirely on their mother's milk for nutrition in the first few months of life. While they may start grazing on vegetation shortly after birth, their primary source of sustenance remains their mother's milk, which provides essential nutrients and immune protection. As the calf grows, the mother begins to introduce solid food into its diet, typically grasses, leaves, and shrubs, which will be its primary food source as it matures. The mother will also begin teaching the calf vital survival skills. For example, the calf learns how to forage for food and how to use its horn, which will become an important weapon for defense in the future. The mother also teaches her calf to be wary of potential dangers, such as predators or other threats in the environment. The calf closely follows the mother, who is extremely vigilant and protective. In terms of defense, the mother rhino is known to be fiercely protective of her calf. She will not hesitate to charge at any potential threat. Lions, hyenas, or even crocodiles can pose a serious risk to a young rhino, but the mother's presence and strength are often enough to deter most predators. If danger approaches, the mother will stand between her calf and the threat, using her horn to fend off attackers. This strong protective instinct is crucial, as rhinos have few natural defenses beyond their size, strength, and formidable horn. The mother-calf bond continues to grow stronger as the calf matures, typically staying with the mother for up to 3 years, depending on the species and environmental factors. During this time, the calf gradually becomes more independent, learning how to fend for itself and begin navigating the world as an adult rhino. As the calf approaches adulthood, it will eventually be weaned from its mother's milk, and its role within the rhino population begins to evolve. Males particularly will leave their mothers and establish their own territories, while females may remain with their mothers or form bonds with other females in the herd. However, the bond between mother and calf remains essential in the early stages of life, as it provides the support, protection, and guidance necessary for the calf's survival in the wild. What does a rhinoceros eat? When we think about the mighty rhinoceros, we often imagine a massive, tough creature roaming the African savannas or the dense jungles of Asia. But behind that intimidating exterior lies an herbivore with a highly specialized diet. Despite their imposing size, rhinos are peaceful grazers and browsers, feeding primarily on plants. However, the specifics of their diet and eating habits vary depending on the species and their environment, making it essential to understand the subtle differences in their feeding behavior. The food they consume is not just a means of sustenance, but is deeply tied to their survival, influencing their health, social structures, and even their role within the ecosystem. Diet and eating habits across rhino species. Rhinos can be classified into 5 species: white rhinos, black rhinos, Indian rhinos, Javan rhinos, each with distinct dietary preferences influenced by their habitat, size, and feeding strategies. White rhinos, Ceratotherium simum. The white rhino is the largest of all rhino species, and their diet is primarily made up of grass. They are often referred to as grazers because they spend much of their time on the savannas and grasslands, feeding on various types of grass. White rhinos are known for their broad, square-shaped mouths, which allow them to efficiently graze on short grasses. They typically prefer grasses that are low to the ground, using their lips to pull large tufts of grass out of the soil. This is an essential part of their diet because it provides them with the nutrients they need to sustain their large bodies. On a typical day, a white rhino might consume up to 120 pounds, 55 kilograms, of grass, making them true heavyweights when it comes to grazing. Their digestive system, though not as efficient as that of a ruminant like cows, is adapted to break down tough grass fibers, aided by the microbes in their stomachs. Black rhinos, Diceros bicornis. Unlike their white cousins, black rhinos are primarily browsers, meaning they feed on shrubs, bushes, fruits, and trees rather than grasses. Their more pointed, hooked-shaped mouths allow them to reach and pull down branches, leaves, and twigs from taller plants. Black rhinos are highly selective eaters and may pick specific plant species based on nutritional content or taste. Black rhinos are also known to eat a variety of fruits and berries when available. Their diet can include acacia trees, thorny bushes, and succulent plants, as well as the bark of certain tree species. This varied diet helps them obtain a wide range of nutrients, though they need to spend more time foraging to meet their nutritional needs. On average, a black rhino consumes around 60 pounds, 27 kilograms of food daily. Indian rhinos, Rhinoceros eucornis. Found in the Indian subcontinent, the Indian rhino primarily feeds on grass, but it also enjoys aquatic plants. Their broad, flattened lips make them efficient grazers, allowing them to consume large amounts of grass in a short amount of time. However, Indian rhinos are known to venture into wetlands and riverbanks, where they feed on reeds, water plants, and grasses that grow along the edges of water bodies. Indian rhinos can also graze on shrubs and small trees, though they are more reliant on grasses and aquatic plants for sustenance. Their diet supports their large, barrel-shaped bodies, providing them with enough energy to sustain their active lifestyle in the wild. Javan rhinos, Rhino sondiacus. The Javan rhino, which is critically endangered, has a diet quite similar to that of the Indian rhino. These rhinos are mostly grazers, but also feed on water plants, shrubs, and fruits. They typically live in swampy areas and coastal forests, where they can access a variety of plant types. The Javan rhino's ability to forage on a variety of vegetation in their forest and wetland habitats makes them highly adaptable to different food sources. Their selective diet helps them survive in the dense jungles of Indonesia, where they navigate through thick vegetation and often have access to nutrient-rich plants in their habitats. Though they have smaller home ranges than other rhino species, their access to varied vegetation is crucial for their survival. Sumatran rhinos. Dicerorhinos sumatranensis. Sumatran rhinos, the smallest of the living rhino species, are also browsers. Their diet is very similar to that of the Javan rhino, consisting of a wide variety of plants, including fruits, leaves, and bark. They are more likely to forage for smaller plants and leaves found on the forest floor, where they can consume a diverse range of vegetation. These rhinos also enjoy the occasional fruit, and their diet includes some of the same plant species that other rhinos consume, but they are particularly adept at foraging for food in dense, tropical environments. The survival of the Sumatran rhino is tied to its ability to find enough plant-based food in the ever-decreasing forests of Southeast Asia. Importance of food for their survival. The food that rhinos consume plays a vital role not only in their survival, but also in the ecosystems they inhabit. Rhinos, though large and often solitary, are a crucial part of their environments. Here's how their feeding habits impact the ecosystem. Ecosystem engineers. Rhinos are often considered keystone species in their ecosystems. Their eating habits help shape the vegetation around them. For example, white rhinos, by feeding on grasses, help maintain the grassland ecosystem by preventing certain grasses from becoming overgrown. This, in turn, ensures the survival of smaller herbivores that depend on shorter grass for food. Black rhinos, by browsing on shrubs and trees, also influence the growth of plant species in their habitats. Their feeding habits can prevent certain species from becoming overly dominant, fostering a more balanced plant community and promoting biodiversity. Maintaining habitat diversity. Rhinos are also responsible for maintaining diverse habitats by influencing plant growth. As they graze and browse, they create clearings in the forest or savanna, which allows sunlight to reach the ground. This encourages the growth of a variety of plants, which benefits other species in the ecosystem. Without rhinos, certain plant species could become overly abundant, disrupting the delicate balance of the habitat. Energy for growth and reproduction. On a more personal level, the food rhinos consume provides the energy needed for their massive size, strong immune systems, and reproductive success. A mother rhino needs an abundance of food to maintain her health and support the growth of a calf, and sufficient nutrition is vital to ensure the healthy birth of a calf. As we saw earlier in the reproductive section, a healthy diet directly impacts the survival and development of the next generation of rhinos. Rhino lifespan. How long do rhinos live? Rhinos are among the longest living mammals on Earth, with some species reaching impressive ages in both the wild and in protected environments. However, the challenges rhinos face in their natural habitats, particularly from poaching and habitat destruction, have had a significant impact on their lifespans. Understanding the lifespan of rhinos and the factors influencing their longevity can shed light on their overall health, survival prospects, and the crucial need for conservation efforts. Average lifespan in the wild versus protected environments. In the wild, the lifespan of rhinos typically ranges from 35 to 50 years, though this can vary depending on the species and environmental conditions. For example, white rhinos, the largest of all rhino species, tend to live for 40 to 50 years in the wild if they are able to avoid the numerous threats they face, including predators, competition, and poaching. Black rhinos, which are more solitary and territorial, also live between 35 to 40 years in the wild, but they can face higher risks due to their smaller population size and increasing conflict with humans over land use. The Indian rhino usually lives for around 35 to 45 years in the wild, though their numbers are heavily impacted by habitat loss and the encroachment of human activity in their native habitats in India and Nepal. Wild rhinos are constantly at risk from threats like predators, disease, accidents, and human interference, all of which can shorten their lifespan. For instance, young rhinos and calves are especially vulnerable to predators like lions, hyenas, or crocodiles, which can shorten their lives even before reaching adulthood. Additionally, those living in regions with more conflict or poaching activity face heightened risks, which can reduce their life expectancy. In protected environments. In contrast, rhinos living in protected reserves, national parks, and sanctuaries often live much longer, sometimes reaching up to 50 years or more, thanks to better access to medical care, security from poachers, and a more stable environment. Without the immediate threat of poaching or habitat destruction, rhinos in these settings are free to reach their full potential. For instance, rhinos in conservation centers that are heavily protected may even live into their early 50s, a testament to the benefits of a secure and controlled environment. In these reserves, rhinos also experience regular health checkups, supplemented diets, and less competition for resources, which contribute to an extended lifespan. However, even within protected areas, some rhinos may face challenges. For example, rhinos can still experience stress from human activity, tourism, and limited space, which can affect their physical and mental health. But the overall conditions are much better compared to the wild, where they are constantly at risk of premature death due to external threats. Impact of poaching and habitat destruction. Unfortunately, rhinos are facing a drastic decline in their lifespans due to the ongoing crisis of poaching and habitat destruction. These factors have had devastating consequences for rhino populations, cutting short the natural life expectancy of many individuals. Poaching and illegal trade. The most significant threat to rhinos, and one that has rapidly decreased their lifespans, is poaching. Rhino poaching for their horns is driven by the high demand for rhino horn in certain cultures, where it is used for traditional medicine, jewelry, and other luxury items. The impact of poaching is not just seen in the immediate loss of life, but also in the long-term disruption of rhino populations. Rhinos that survive poaching attempts or injuries inflicted by poachers often experience physical trauma that reduces their ability to thrive in the wild. Injured rhinos may struggle to find food or protect themselves from other predators, which can significantly shorten their lives. Furthermore, young rhinos are particularly vulnerable to poaching, with many calves left without their mothers. In cases where a rhino calf is left orphaned, its chances of survival drop dramatically. Without the protection, nourishment, and guidance of a mother, young rhinos are at risk of disease, starvation, and predation, often leading to premature deaths. For example, a rhino calf that loses its mother at a young age may only survive a few years, while those raised with the care and protection of an adult can live much longer. Habitat destruction and fragmentation. Habitat destruction is another significant factor that impacts rhino lifespans. As human populations grow, rhinos are increasingly pushed out of their natural environments due to the expansion of agriculture, urban development, and poaching hotspots. When rhinos are displaced from their natural habitats, they are forced to adapt to new areas with fewer resources, less food, and greater competition with other species. Habitat fragmentation, where large areas of rhino habitat are divided into smaller, isolated patches, also makes it harder for rhinos to find mates, access water sources, and migrate safely. This leads to increased inbreeding and reduced genetic diversity, which can lead to health problems, lower reproductive success, and, in the long term, a shorter lifespan. Disease and stress from human activity. Rhinos are also at risk from diseases that are exacerbated by human encroachment into their habitats. For example, as rhinos come into closer contact with human settlements or domesticated livestock, they become more exposed to diseases like tuberculosis or anthrax, which can shorten their lives. Additionally, the stress caused by the presence of humans, whether through tourism, habitat disturbances, or poaching activities, can take a toll on rhino health. Stress can weaken the immune system, leaving rhinos more vulnerable to illness and injury. Conservation efforts and the future of rhino lifespan. While the challenges of poaching and habitat destruction are significant, there is hope for extending the lifespan of rhinos through targeted conservation efforts. Protecting rhinos from poachers, improving habitat protection, and creating safe spaces for rhinos to roam are all key strategies in increasing their chances of living long, healthy lives. By supporting anti-poaching measures like rangers and surveillance systems, rhinos are given a better chance to reach old age. For example, in South Africa, where white rhino populations are the most threatened, intensive protection efforts have helped stabilize numbers, allowing many rhinos to live into their 40s and 50s. Creating more protected areas and ensuring that these areas are free from human disturbances is equally important for ensuring a long lifespan for rhinos. With proper protection, rhinos can live out their natural lifespans and play their role in maintaining the ecosystem. The future of rhinos is uncertain, but there is still hope. Conservation efforts are underway, and they are proving to be crucial in the fight against extinction. While rhinos face significant challenges, the collective work of governments, conservationists, and local communities is giving these magnificent creatures a fighting chance. One of the greatest threats to rhinos is poaching. The demand for rhino horn remains incredibly high, particularly in some Asian markets, and poachers relentlessly target rhinos to meet that demand. In response, conservationists have ramped up anti-poaching initiatives. In high-risk areas, law enforcement has been reinforced with specialized patrols and surveillance technologies like drones and satellite tracking. These methods have made a significant impact, helping to monitor rhino populations more effectively and catch poachers in the act. In some regions, dehorning programs have also been implemented, making rhinos less appealing targets for poachers. But combating poaching is only one part of the equation. Rhinos are also under threat from habitat destruction. As human populations grow and expand, rhinos are losing their natural habitats to agriculture, urbanization, and deforestation. In response, conservationists are working to protect and restore the habitats that are vital for rhinos. This includes creating protected areas and sanctuaries, as well as engaging in large-scale habitat restoration projects aimed at returning ecosystems to their natural state. These efforts not only benefit rhinos, but also the broader wildlife communities that share these ecosystems. While these conservation initiatives are essential, there are still significant challenges. The illegal trade in rhino horn continues to drive poaching, and in many regions, political instability hampers conservation efforts. The financial resources necessary for long-term protection programs are often lacking, and climate change is affecting rhino habitats, changing the distribution of water and vegetation. Additionally, with populations of some rhino species dwindling, there are concerns about inbreeding, which threatens genetic diversity and the long-term survival of the species. However, there is a path forward. Global collaboration is more important than ever. International agreements like CITES, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, have made cross-venture conservation efforts more effective. Public awareness campaigns are helping to educate people about the truth behind rhino horn myths, which is slowly reducing the demand in some regions. Innovative technologies, such as satellite tracking, drone surveillance, and DNA monitoring, are revolutionizing conservation practices and enabling better protection for rhinos. Breeding programs have also been successful in maintaining the genetic diversity of rhinos, particularly in sanctuaries and zoos. These programs aim to increase rhino populations in the wild by using artificial insemination and reintroducing rhinos into protected habitats. While challenges remain, the steady work of conservationists has provided some much-needed optimism. Perhaps most importantly, local communities are playing a vital role in rhino conservation. Community-based approaches that promote ecotourism and support anti-poaching efforts have empowered local people to take ownership of conservation in their own regions. When local communities benefit from rhino conservation, they are more likely to work toward its success. The road ahead may be challenging, but the future of rhinos is not without hope. By continuing to address the root causes of poaching, habitat destruction, and climate change, and by collaborating on a global scale, there is a real opportunity to protect rhinos and ensure that they continue to roam the earth for generations to come. As we reach the end of this journey through the world of rhinos, it's impossible to ignore the urgent reality facing these incredible creatures. Rhinos are in crisis. In the wild, their numbers are dwindling at an alarming rate, driven by poaching, habitat loss, and the ever-present threat of extinction. But this is not a story of hopelessness. It's a story of what we can still do. The future of rhinos is in our hands. We've seen how these majestic animals play a vital role in their ecosystems, maintaining the balance of nature. We've explored their fascinating biology, the mysteries of their horns, and the challenges they face from predators and poachers alike. Yet, despite the odds, there is still hope. Conservation efforts are making a difference, but they need our support now more than ever. Rhino populations are still in free fall, and the clock is ticking. Every day that passes without action is another step closer to the extinction of species that have roamed the earth for millions of years. We cannot afford to wait. Rhinos need our voices, our advocacy, and our commitment to their survival. So, what can we do? We can make a difference. The fight for rhinos is not a battle for wildlife alone. It's a battle for the planet. By donating to reputable conservation organizations, we can fund anti-poaching patrols, habitat restoration projects, and breeding programs that are working tirelessly to save rhinos from extinction. Every dollar counts. But it doesn't stop there. We can also raise awareness, educate our communities, share the truth about rhino conservation, and speak out against the illegal trade in rhino horn. Advocacy is one of the most powerful tools we have in protecting these animals, and together, we can shift the cultural perceptions that fuel the demand for rhino horn. In the end, it's simple. We have the power to make a change. By standing together, supporting rhino conservation, and holding those who harm these animals accountable, we can give rhinos the chance to thrive once again. The future is still unwritten, and we have the opportunity to write it together. A future where rhinos aren't just surviving, but flourishing. So, take action. Donate, advocate, raise awareness. The rhinos need us, and the time to act is now. Let's ensure that the story of rhinos is one of hope, not extinction.